Okay, welcome, Jason Rudeen. I'm super
Hi.
excited. Very happy to have you. So many reasons that I think you're perfect fit for this show. So I was really glad you volunteered. Let me introduce you.
Yeah.
Jason is, and I hope I get this right because you have your hand. You do a lot of things. You're a recovery coach, one of the hosts of the Way Out podcast, a founding board member of Recovery Cafe, Anoka County. I hope I said that right. I just learned about this. This is amazing to me. Every city should have one. You have to tell us all a little bit about that at some point. Uh,
Okay.
you've been, it looks like sober for 9 years. Your date's coming up here in a minute,
It
right?
is.
I'm
Yeah, it's right
excited. All
around the
right.
corner.
Um, and here's the thing about Jason. From my perspective, one of the things I love about him is this is a man who really understands and lives the principles of service and community. And and on top of that, something that is very near and dear to my heart, something that I value extremely highly from the day I got sober, and that's purpose. You talk a lot about having a purpose. And to me, the day I got sober, laying on what I thought was going to be my deathbed, I knew if I didn't find a purpose to my life, I was going to end up back there again. And
Yeah.
so I love your podcast. I love your message. I love your service, and I love that you're here. Um,
Thank you.
so let's start with what it was like.
So, I've got two failed marriages under my belt. Um, the only common denominator was that I was in those relationships. I'm not saying that they were saints, but whatever. When I got into recovery, I was single and it was I was a mess. I was like, I was like, I'm gonna swear off women, right? But of course, you get clean, you start feeling better, and you're meeting a bunch of new hot chicks, at meetings. It's gonna be
Did
a
you
little bit
really swear
different.
off women? Because my first thought after I got my health, like I started feeling better by the end of a week, the end of the week, I was like starting to have a little bit more energy. One of my first thoughts was, I can't wait to start dating again. I wanted to have sex. I wanted a date. I wanted a
Right.
relationship. I wanted commitment. I wanted it all within about a week. Now,
Yeah,
thankfully,
no.
nobody wanted to date me for at least 2 years. And I was a hot mess, so it's completely understandable. But I sure wanted to date.
Yeah. I could see that. That's what I mean, though. It's like when I was like, towards the end of the uh my using, it was like I was a hot mess, man, and I was, hurt, and I just was angry, and I didn't. That's when I was like, I swear to God, I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. I'm not going to date, but once I got clean, I started feeling better, and Mr. Johnson started waking up, too, because Dick wasn't in the dirt all the time, so that was a
How
little
old were you,
different.
by the way? How old were you when you got sober? Because
36.
yeah, so I was 29. So we're still in an age where our hormones are flowing. But let's just circle back for a minute. You had two failed marriages at 36, and were there certain patterns that you would say caused those failed marriages? Were you unavailable? Did you have a hard time being vulnerable and authentic, or what were your patterns?
Honestly, I mean, there's probably a slew of things, but a big one that ties in directly with the topic that you're really trying to dig into here is, sexually the sexual intimacy. Like, I'm a survivor of childhood sexual trauma, so I always had a hard time getting close and like feel I never felt safe. I think was the thing. Like when things would start getting going, it would be like all of a sudden, I might get into it, full on into it for little bit, but at some point it seemed like my mind would start racing and I would get this block. And so I was always like a real strong starter, and I've always been like I have a hard time to finish, like to I'll last a long time, I'll get them off, but I can't, like to let myself go is a difficult thing even now. But it used to be much worse back in the day. So, coming off of that having the childhood sexual trauma. My cousin had molested me for like 3 months when my mom was in the hospital and in a coma for like 6 months. I had to go live with some family members for like 3 months of that. I was getting, raped by my cousin who was 11 years my senior. I was 5 years old. And then I just locked that up, right? And it came back in recurring dreams when I was 12, and they were very confusing dreams, very disturbing. It was like a faceless man and a faceless child, and you can fill in the blanks of what was happening. And uh, but I didn't know like why the hell I kept having these. It would be like if I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I go back to sleep and it would keep going, those kind of dreams are like just recurring like every night I was having the same fucking nightmare. And I remember thinking, like, am I the man or am I the child? Like, am I some sick, twisted fuck inside and I am not aware of it? Or am I like the victim here? I don't know what's happening. And it was crazy. And then I finally was like so disturbed after months of having this that I told my mom. Mind you, I'm like 12 years old. She said, "Oh, yeah, it sounds like what happened with you when you were a kid with your cousin." And it all came flooding back for some reason after we had that conversation. I remembered every vivid detail after that, and it really fucked me up. And then moving forward, into my life and all my relationships, it's like, so I've always been like, sex isn't the most important thing, but it's obviously important. And I know it's important because I've seen how it affected the women in my life. I've seen how it made them feel. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's hard. And it's hard when everybody says, the famous line, it's not you, it's me. And to be a man and trying to explain that to a female who you love and care for deeply, but you just can't seem to. And it's not even just sexually, it was definitely on an emotional level as well. I was very like all or nothing thinkers. So if we would have disagreement, then I would internalize every bit of it. I would personalize it and I would feel like I was faulty and I would feel like there was something wrong with me. And it would just, you know, t- I would make mountains out of molehills all
Well, yeah,
it, but inside, my
yeah.
head.
You felt unsafe. You felt unsafe emotionally and physically. And I worked as a certified sexuality counselor for 6 years and a surrogate partner and an intimacy coach. And I worked with a lot of clients who had sexual trauma. I'm not a therapist. I would work in conjunction with their therapist. In a triadic relationship, it's complicated to explain. But this thing about delayed ejaculation or inhibited ejaculation, what we called clients who their issue was they could start strong but not finish, very frequently came from feeling unsafe. If you can't feel safe, you can't relax and be and let go. If you can't let go in sex, which is sort of the ultimate vulnerability, just where you're really just you should be able to be uninhibited and lose control, and uh, then it's definitely going to cause an issue. And the women, by and large, I mean, every now and then some of these clients would have a partner who was really understanding, but the majority of them took it personally. And then that compounded
Yeah.
the distress for the guy because he was usually more concerned about what he was doing to his partner. And then
Yeah.
that instills, shame or at least guilt, but often shame. And then shame compounds the physical aspect.
It
And
was hard.
yeah, and you were one of these, I guess, one of these kids that you actually did not remember, and then it all came back, and so that must have been like a gut punch, and you were betrayed by a family member, someone you should have been. You're supposed to trust your blood relatives more than anyone; they're supposed to be there for you. And then on top of that, the female figure, the mother figure, was indisposed. I guess she
Yeah.
was sick, so you weren't protected at all. So all of that, one of the things I talk about on the show has that all these aspects of our childhood will not dictate per se, but affect how we relate to our partners in the future. You know,
Yeah.
if our mother is just if she's working too hard and she's absentee, that creates that framework for how we see what we expect of women in our lives, right? So you might start attracting or being attracted to women who aren't really there for you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one way the pattern can show
You
up.
know what though? It's funny because I've obviously wavered back and forth over the years and had different experiences with different women. I've had a couple women that for some reason it was like, just good to go, and I'd be like all proud and shit. But it was like a safe space and a comfortable feeling with them. Whereas other ones, I really, that would ultimately end
Oh,
up finding out were playing me or
locked up.
had
Say that again.
side
With other
action.
women, say again.
uh yeah, I had other women who maybe in the moment I wasn't aware, but they were playing me, and I would find out later, maybe a couple of years later, in a certain circle of people, and find out like, oh yeah, I fucked her when you were with her, I fucked her when you were with her, and I'm like, what, kind of, that's fucked up. But then that almost, like, what do you call it? Like reaffirmed, or, affirmed that that was my intuition. I think that I've always been a very like empathetic person, very deep feeler. Uh, Even through my childhood, like I've always been that way. And so I think even when there was no evidence to the contrary, that I somehow intuited that there was something. And I always used to say too, when I would get in relationships, I'd be like, I'm just weird that way. Like everything's gotta be like almost like the stars align, like for Johnny to work right all the time,
Yeah, but
or
it's the thing
whatever.
about there is such a thing as a hypersensitive personality. They're called hypersensitive people, HSPs. That's roughly 18% of the population, so 1 in 6 people. They're born that way. It's not a disorder, it's a temperament. It's
Okay.
unchangeable, and there's a test you can take online. I answered yes to 19 of the 20 questions. I think there's like 20 questions. I answered yes to 19 of them and maybe to the last one, right? So I'm definitely one. And the world needs all kinds of people. It needs people who maybe are a little cold because they can be surgeons and what have you, right? And we need people who are extra sensitive because we're the poets and we're the, maybe the recovery coaches, right? And so it's not a disorder, but in this world, it can feel like one. It can also
Yeah.
feel like a superpower because if you're able to detect things that other people can't detect, and I absolutely can, you have just even your energy field might be picking up energies of deception and
Yeah.
your other partner, and you're absorbing it through your subconscious. I mean, I don't really know how it all works, but yeah, it's a
I
thing.
don't either. I just know like
It's real.
what was happening, and then I don't know. It was, but it's funny because then when it came to more casual sexual encounters, I didn't have an issue. It was like if there wasn't strings attached, then I didn't
Yeah. Because there's
have
no
to care.
expectation. Nobody's
Yeah, I didn't have to
expecting.
care as much.
Yeah.
But then I felt dirty though after. Like,
Yep.
so I never really got a lot out of that kind of lifestyle, like being a man whore. I went through a couple phases and whatever with that, but it was like what I found though, obviously was that, at least the first 10, 15 years, that substances helped me
Mhm.
override that shit, and not, it was like not a big deal then.
Right. So it's self-medicating. It's not, I'm not going to say justifiable, but it's certainly rational. Like
Right.
it's,
But, and then too, I did want to mention that when I was like 17, I had a guy, Donald, that was like 26, and we worked together at White Castle. He was my friend, but he would buy me booze, and I sold him weed. And I went out to drink with him one night. Me and my girl got in a fight. I was really upset. He needed some pot, and he was like asking me questions about it. And then he's like, you just need to like let some steam off or something. So he's like, let's go get a like bottle and a case of beer and let's like go drink. And I'm like, fuck it. Yeah, let's do it. And we ended up getting hammered as fuck. And I passed out and I woke up and my face is down on the pillow. My ass is up in the air. My pants are down on around my thighs. He's eating my ass.
Wow.
And I wake up to this and I'm like, what the fuck? And I fucking grabbed my shit. And I had a backpack with all my weed and money and stuff. And I, I left the hotel room. And I remember I was walking around for like 3 hours outside drunk and, just fuming, man. And then I went back because I forgot some stuff there. And I had this, like badass pocket knife or whatever. And I remember getting in the room and he was like laid up on the edge of one of the queen beds and the whole like space between the bed and the wall was just full of puke and he was out. And I was standing at the foot of the bed with this fucking knife in my hand, staring at his jugular, throbbing in his neck. And I, that was one of the very few like homicidal tendencies that I ever felt. Like I wanted to kill him, and I'm so glad I didn't execute, but I left. And then there was one other time, I think a couple of years after that, when I was rooming with in my time at the time, it was my best friend Sean. We were big junkies at this time, shooting up, up for days, weeks maybe, and I had passed out, whatever fell out, we used to call it. And I was out and I woke up and he was sucking my dick. And I was like, what are you doing, dude? He went back in his room and we never spoke about it again. It was like, you know,
That's
I,
crazy. Like I mean, you were raped repeat by three separate people in your life.
yeah, I swear to
People that you
God,
trusted, people, friends, people you're supposed to be able to trust.
yeah. And,
That's
and
incredible. It's incredible that you ever allowed yourself to be uh, connected and intimate. I mean, I could see why somebody would put up huge walls. I had huge walls and I didn't go through anything like that.
it's hard, dude, like
Yeah.
really to not give up on the fantasy, right? Like,
A lot of people
you know,
do. A lot of people absolutely do. I worked with clients who were in their 40s, 50s, 60s. I had a client who in his 70s. People, some of these men experience trauma around childhood or college age and they never date. They go decades. And then somewhere around their a pivotal um, what do you call it? Like right around 40 or 50, when they're changing decades, they all of
mhm.
a sudden think my life isn't working. So the number of men that I saw that were right around their 40th birthday or 50th birthday or 60th birthday was much higher than anything else, because at some point you just realize it's not working. But for you, it was more you it, medicated it, I'm guessing. You just continued.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I medicated a lot. I did a lot of that, obviously.
And so once you got sober, you started dating. And what kind of struggles did you come up against then? Were you,
That's crazy. So many weird things. Like, I think one of the first ones, well, first it was this chick, I won't say her name, but if she watches this, she knows who she is, and I love her dearly as a friend. She's awesome, but we worked together when I was just first moved out of my second marriage. I was trying to get my drinking under control. I was living in my mom's house. I was like 34. We started. I could not like get enough of this chick's like ass, right? Like I would be like just watching her at work and I was flirting with her relentlessly. I was trying to get her to go with me. She was way younger than me. She turned out she was a stripper and she was hot, man. And I was like, I gotta get with this chick. And I finally get her to go out with me. And we had a good night, nice date, whatever. And then she was like, when we were done, because I rode with her, she was like, I don't have a, she said, it's kind of getting late, but not super late. But she's like, I need to stop at a friend's house. Do you want me to drop you off at home first? Or do you want to like maybe, if you want, you can come over there with me and we can hang out longer or whatever. And I was like, let's go. And when we get over there, this chick gives her a bag of meth and it's got like a pretty little like pink bow tied around it. And then there's these dudes in the living room passing around like a big bubbler, meth pipe bong thing. And then, yeah, I ended up, my junkie brain, I hadn't done a powder at that point in like 8 years, told me that I could smoke some because that ain't shit because I was always a banger, right?
Mhm.
So that's how this whole relationship started.
Oh, you froze again.
And our relationship was crazy. It froze again.
You're
Sorry
back.
about that.
You're back.
It was crazy because then it went from like obviously I got high that night with her. We went back to my place, and had a great time, and then she just never kind of left. And she always had dope, so I was quickly diving down. It was like game on right away, doing all this stuff with her, and heading a few months after that, she wanted to try shooting it because of probably all my stories and the way I tell them can come across like glorification, I guess, but it's not. It's not. It's just me reliving the experience, and I'd be lying if I said things weren't fun sometimes, right, in the past.
Right.
But anyway, so maybe I somehow made her think that shooting up would be cool to try. And so I tried to deter her against it. It just pissed her off. She thought, thanks for the vote of confidence, and I'm like, I'm just saying, it's like opening Pandora's box. She ends up disappearing for days. And I was like just starting to sell meth at the time. She ended up becoming one of my biggest customers for a while, and we had this tumultuous, weird relationship where she was like contemplating on starting to escort. She was contemplating on getting into porn. Uh, I thought that I could handle that, which was not, that was not the case. I could not handle it. I couldn't. Uh, and that's just the way it is. You think you're so into them, right? You want to be able to handle that and respect their autonomy, but it's like jealousy, dude. I don't know. I'm not a very jealous guy, but that brought out jealousy out of me. And
Yeah, well, understandably, and it sounds like what's interesting here is that you've fallen so hard for someone who maybe she was falling hard for you too, but in other ways, practical ways, she's kind of unavailable. It's a little like the way I was dating married men who lived 3 states away, men who were
right.
emotionally unavailable and only wanted to see me for a few weeks before going back to their ex. Like I was attracted to these men. Why was I attracted to men who didn't want to really couldn't be there for me? Why were you
That's the
attracted
way
to
my
someone
mother
who
was.
Yes, and that's the way my father was. Like, I mean, it's like my father loved me, so all the men I dated made me feel loved. I wasn't like one of those women who dated men who didn't, who treated them badly, because my father never treated me badly. He just wasn't there for
Yeah.
me. And so that's the kind of guy I dated. They were great in every way until push came to shove and I needed someone to depend on. So you probably had some loving relationship with this woman, but when you really needed her to be there for you, she's off with other guys at the strip club or with escort clients, right? And that's not what you need.
What what was wild too was that this was like the most amazing sexual like relationship I ever
Yeah.
had. If you're just looking at that aspect.
My best sexual relationship until my husband was with the guy who was there for me the least. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of
and
what that is.
that's a good point to point out because I'm in no way saying that it was like the best relationship. It was probably
Yeah.
the most toxic or
Yeah.
one of them right up there. But boy, we
The sex makes it hard to go. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that. Maybe
yeah, so
you were
sick.
still seeing her after you got sober.
Yeah,
And was she
here
was
and
she
there, but
clean?
we were both in and out of treatment.
Uh,
I can remember one time because her parents hated me. Like I don't know what she said
really?
to people, but she drew a picture of me, and I guess it's not false, but like I was the big bad wolf, the big drug dealer, which I mean I was her drug dealer, but not at the beginning. Like at the
Right.
beginning, she was the one with all the supplies. She was making bank at the club, you know what I mean? Like that job at the pizza place was like not her main source of income, I'll
Right.
tell you that. And so yeah, it was like, but her parents hated me, and she had her mom drop her off at the Alano Club, which was like 3 blocks from my mom's house, where I was still living at my mom's at that point. And we went upstairs and banged it out in the bathroom, you know. Just like we couldn't resist it. It was like, oh my God. She was in treatment for like a while and we hadn't seen each other for a few months. But
I never feel
yeah,
bad about that stuff. I mean, I, I sometimes my body tells me what it needs to do. I mean, I feel worse about the unhealthy relationships. I never feel bad about the, incredible sex.
no, that was cool. You know, it was good and it was good to see her and it was like a good way to like punctuate
Yeah.
that visit. And then when, she sat through the meeting and then she got picked up and I didn't see her again for a while. What ended up ultimately happening was Kristin was like at some point, because I fumbled a couple times early on, I had a couple relapses. Uh, some hard things happened, or it was, recovery is not something that you get right away sometimes. But she relapsed, and at some point I stopped relapsing and I was really doing the work and I was growing. And then she was like, I remember one of the last times I seen her there, and it was a while after that, before a couple of years before I would see her again. It was like, she called me, she was freaking out. She literally just straight up said, I just did too much. And I'm like 3 blocks away. Can I come to your house and ride this out? And dude, being early in recovery and having this, and she looked so shattered, and I could literally like smell the dope coming out of her pores. She was like shaking like a leaf. She was super high. Her pores were all open. She was all covered in sweat. It was just like weird. My whole room smelled like dope, like, and that was hard. I could feel it, like I could taste it almost. It was like, what the hell? But I let her hang out and ride it out, and but after she finally started feeling better and got some sleep, I said, I can't do this. I'm not going to sit front row and watch you do this to yourself. I mean, it was probably a good experience for me because it made me not want to go back to that shit, because it was like she was so fucked up and I was like so sober. You
I
know
mean,
what I mean?
sometimes the universe brings you a scenario where you have to make a choice, and
Right.
it's a test. How serious are you? How committed are you?
Yeah.
Are you gonna fail the test or pass the test? If you fail, then you speed on to your demise or to your next rehab trip. And if you
Right.
pass, then you've made a huge leap forward because you've overcome a huge hurdle.
You're right. And it was really like this big, like, aha moment for me because all my life, if I ever heard somebody talking about no D experience or like some bad batch, what most people would call a bad batch because the shit will put down an elephant or something. I was always the guy that was like, I want some of that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I was very self destructive. So, the fact that I was seeing her in that kind of shape and not feeling the urge to search her fucking pockets when she passed out and find that dope and slam some and see if I can get there. So I want to be like that. That's how I
Yeah.
used to think. Um, yeah, so then after her, I ended up meeting a girl when I spoke at a treatment center, adolescent treatment center, and she was the first person, and I was probably about, 6 months clean at that time. She was like the first person that really like told my story, like had very similar experiences to what I've been through with the dope, with the needle, with the trauma and sexual stuff. So I was just like, and she was hot, So I remember I was with my buddy Leon, and we were in the parking lot. I'm like, bro. And he's like, what? And I'm just giving him this super serious look. He's like, what, dude? And I'm like, she will be mine. He just laughed at me and shit. Like, but yeah, anyway, I ended up hooking up with her. But that was also coincidentally the situation that led me to the Way Out podcast because she had just been on the Way Out podcast with Charles. She sent me the link, when we started talking, and I listened to it at home. And at the end, Charles would say, if you want to share your story, email us at share@wayoutcast.com. It's still the same. If you guys want to share your recovery story, go ahead, hit me up. Uh, and it was like, I just don't know why that was like a fighting every instinct because everything in me was telling me, why the fuck? Who wants to hear what you have to say, dude? Like, why? What are you even thinking right now, you idiot? And I told that voice to shut the fuck up, and I emailed him, and I was like a week later. That was my first time ever being on a podcast in Charles's basement studio. So, if it
And
wasn't for
again,
that,
it's again moving through that fear, like making that courageous choice, and it just
yeah,
propels you forward, right? And it's so similar. I think this thing that you say about everything you want is on the other side of that fear, or something like that, right?
yeah, yep,
And it's so true. And it's the same in recovery as it is in relationships, because if you have fear of intimacy, you're never going to have it unless you push through that fear. You move through that fear, you dive straight into that fear, and you let yourself experience the fear and you move through it anyway. That's called courage. And it's the same with recovery, right? If you're not doing the stuff that makes you scared and uncomfortable, you're not being vulnerable, right? And that
yeah,
stuff is like letting people see your insecurities, your weaknesses, your character flaws, or that thing about how dare I think anyone wants to hear what I have to say, right? Like,
yeah,
how dare I think that? Well, that's something you have to pushing through the fear of not being good enough and daring to think you might have something to say is one of the biggest fears we have. And in relationships too, or dating, daring to think, oh, this, I might be a fun date. I might be a nice woman to go out with. I might make a good partner or a good, God forbid, a good wife someday. Like, how
mhm,
dare I think that big, right? How dare I think that of myself? Because, we spend so much time in our using days thinking we're pieces of crap.
yeah,
And it's very hard to get over that. And I will tell you, I've been to meetings where people want to go on and on about humility in a way like how, like, they're almost perpetuating this idea that we're still pieces of shit. And I had to get away from those meetings, right? Because I realized they were holding me back, and
yeah,
so I'm just saying that there's a lot of parallels between recovery and fear and intimacy.
absolutely. And
Yeah, it's that fear of
honestly,
not being
there's
vulnerable.
parallels with recovery in every aspect of your
Yeah,
life.
absolutely, 100%.
It's
If
a,
it wasn't for
it's
the 12
crazy.
steps and the principles that they represent, the honesty, the accountability, the forgiveness, the inventorying, right, the
Mm,
communication, everything, a certain amount of surrender, you
yeah,
need it all in relationships.
yeah, totally. I mean, honestly, through it all, um, when it comes to relationships, like it all started with the getting clean, but I mean, I was worried about, getting my kid back, so I went extra. I did therapy for 2 years. I did anger management. I did parenting classes, listening classes, inner critic workshops, and
Oh, yeah.
recovery coaching, and shadow work, and imago relationship therapy. I did all these things to get in touch with really ultimately, I guess, what would have ended up being like little me or other versions, my shadow selves that I had to learn how to embrace to become whole. That's the only way you can become whole. And once you become whole, you can really start to work on things like your defensive nature, or your capacity to listen actively and well and make people feel valued and loved and heard. It's like that shit was really hard before. Like communication, I always say, is one of the hardest hurdles or things that I've had to work on in my journey. And I had a lot of practice through those early relationships. Like that chick from the treatment center, she, we hooked up, whatever, a few times, and I really liked her a lot, and she liked me a lot. And then we were sitting out having coffee on her front porch. Like it was only after like the third date or something, but it was like intense, right? So, just a chill morning, and feeling good. And she wanted to talk about this, and she said that she wanted to date other people. She didn't know if she was ready to like settle down with anybody yet. And I was like, kind of like, okay, I was just like, yep, I can respect that. Thanks for telling me. And I was like, you ever change your mind? Let me know. Hook up or whatever again, and if I'm available. And so I let her go, and then I had another girl that I dated for kind of a little bit of a longer stretch. She was super cool, and when we first hooked up, I did not know God, and I was experiencing the fruits of this recovery work hardcore, but I did not know God. And then I had come to Christ during our time dating. And I went like any good addict, balls deep into this Christianity thing. I was running the baptism team at the church, and I'm doing Bible studies every week with people that are like almost twice my age, which was awkward at first, but they're like family now, they're just normal people. You always think as a ex-junkie, like, especially when you're a new Christian, like you don't belong, or like you're so different. Everybody, different devils, same levels, whatever, or same devils, different levels. That's what I'm saying. And everybody's got their shit. So I still learned a lot and stuff being with these people. But anyway, there was a point where I became really strongly convicted that we needed to stop having sex because I wanted to honor the Lord, right? And she was like,
That's doing Christianity like an alcoholic, man. That's like
yeah,
excessive.
it was. It was.
Like no
I was like,
moderation whatsoever.
and it's super dumb because there was no way I could sustain that. And as my it's Christianity is one of the things where is if you're really like, and I'm not talking about going to church, but I'm just talking about like working on a relationship with your creator, so you're learning about it, but you're also having a relationship, you're also sharing with that deity, you're praying, or you're meditating, and you're doing those things a lot. You will the further into it you get, it's kind of like the less you realize,
Yeah.
the less you know. So it's like my understanding would eventually change, where it was like, I mean, I'm always going to be an imperfect sinner. And look, Johnny wants to come out and play, like I can't stop him. So, yeah. So I was like, but so that ended that one. And then she gave me shit about it for years after that. And I just thought it was funny. What are some other funny ones? I dated another girl, which was super awkward. Like we got together and we dated for like 3 months, if even. And like she made me work for that pussy, right? Like hard. And then when I got it, I think she only let me hit it like maybe twice. She would always like clam up on me and stuff. Like I think she was going through what I did to that other chick. So now I'm on the other side of it. But it was crazy because this one night she she was basically like telling me we needed to get married and we couldn't have sex anymore. And that but that we needed to get married. And I felt like I don't really even fucking know you, man. Like I don't know why, but I got like pretty offended by the
You don't
notion.
know why, really? Because I know why.
Well,
It's offensive.
well, I was like, no, it had nothing to do with the sex though, because it was like I just felt like it was really inappropriate to be bringing up marriage already at this early of a stage of us getting to know each other.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
It is.
Well, I didn't know if you were assuming that it was because I wanted. I just like, what?
No,
She's
no, it's intrusive, it's presumptive, it's or presumptuous, it's
controlling.
controlling, yeah. It's
Oh,
not
it was
taking the other
weird.
person's needs into consideration. It's crazy.
It
It's very
was.
self-centered.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. You
And
don't, I
then
mean, you really know how to pick on some of these girls.
it's crazy, right? And
And
then
I'm speaking like someone who, I mean, I'm acting like I didn't do the exact same thing. I mean, I picked,
well,
the
I
men in my
guess
life were just as choice.
it's trial
Yeah, trial and error.
and error, right? Like failure is the best teacher. And I learned all these. And it's funny, like when we were talking about me doing this and I was reflecting, I thought should be fun because it's like I almost got like such a mixed bag of these different experiences. Like I'll always like know, like, oh, I'm not gonna go for a girl like that. And then I'll try to pick somebody like way different,
Yeah.
but then I get this whole different like experience, right?
Do you like a
It's like
challenge? Is it partly that you like a challenge, or
I don't know.
does it not seem like a challenge at first and then it just turns into one? Because maybe the universe is just like sending you like lesson after lesson so that you can evolve really quickly. Like,
I think I like to feel like, think on the terms of the latter that it's until you learn the lesson that life is trying to teach you,
yeah,
history will repeat itself.
yeah,
And my I didn't learn lessons. I just tried to avoid this or that, right? Like, and that didn't start until recovery though. So I'm grateful for that,
yeah,
like. But I can remember my first marriage was a junkie like me. We never had any kids, thank God. And rest her soul, she's dead now. She died of a fentanyl overdose like 5 years ago. But she was, you know, we were just bad. We were bad. We were
yeah,
just bad. And
yeah,
then so like my second wife, she was like valedictorian of her class. She was a criminal justice major. She, wanted to be an adolescent juvenile probation officer and like try to kind of help uh the issues of like, addiction and violence like by getting with the kids. And she never did get into that profession. She actually ended up becoming a prison guard instead, but she found a promising career doing that. She's been doing it now for a long time and met her husband there. I mean, that's where God wanted her to go. So, but yeah, it's like I always had that tendency if I had a bad experience, a really bad experience, I would try to go like any good act, right? Black and white thinking. I'm going to go for the opposite
yeah,
end of
yeah,
the
yeah,
gambit,
yeah. Well,
which
I
is
mean, what's
funny. Then
worse?
I found out in therapy that criminals and like police or detectives have the most similar like psychological like structures.
Yeah,
And I I was like blown away when I heard that at first, but then the more I reflected on it, the more it made sense because it was not hard to for that attraction to take place when I went for that super goody goody two shoes overachiever, wanting to get into the criminal justice field person. So like we were still like peanut butter and jelly.
that's hilarious. I don't, I think I actually have heard that before. Um, But yeah, so you still have a type, even though they seem wildly different, you still do kind of have like a type. And it's funny. I want to circle back to something you said, a couple things you said, that thing about becoming whole, and also about doing shadow work, because that hasn't come up in any of my interviews yet. And I'm a really big believer in that kind of stuff, because the thing is, if you're not bringing those out of the shadows, you're never going to become whole. And what you end up doing is you start seeking out someone who's got those traits, so that when you're with them, you feel whole. And a lot of people don't even realize, oh, when I'm with this person, I feel complete. Isn't that wonderful? No, you should feel complete on your own, which
Amen.
means you need to do some shadow work. All that stuff you
Yeah.
suppressed in childhood because it wasn't acceptable or whatever, for whatever reason, and probably seemed smart at the time, later on in life you need to bring that out in yourself. And then we meet these people that maybe will bring that out. Like, I suppressed my playfulness because my mother hated it. She wanted us to be quiet and calm down and grow up, and she was very critical, and just the silliness and exuberance just drove her crazy. She had too many kids and a very stressful job, so I suppressed all that. And so for the rest of my life, I would be very attracted to playful men, men who had that childlike sense of wonderment. It was very,
Yeah.
the life of the party. Well, you can see where that's going to go, right? First, for the first 6 months, I feel whole because I'm with somebody who brings it out in me. Instead of bringing
Yeah.
it out in myself, I'm relying on him to bring it out in me. And then what happens is the guy who's super playful is also totally irresponsible. Like, I'm the other way. I'm like too ambitious and driven, and I never have fun, and I'm just so focused on where I'm going and blah blah blah. And even as a drug addict, I was like really focused on like my drug dealing or whatever. And so that quality that I love in him that he brings out in me is the same thing that, taken to an extreme, drives me crazy and breaks us up. And all of the universe is trying to teach me is, this guy's supposed to be triggering my playfulness so I can bring it up and start to nurture it and incorporate it back into my personality, right? So then I feel whole. And then I'm going to attract someone who's probably whole as well, because I'm not just being attracted to these puzzle pieces, these my missing parts fitting with his, and his missing parts fitting with my traits, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's really important to remember that everyone we date, I can look at every single person I ever dated as a universe's way. I thought the universe, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, right? The force. You could say God is bringing these men into my life to show me what I'm missing, so I can be, become a more whole person, and then move on to someone who's more whole as well. Every one of them was a lesson. If you're not looking at the lessons, you're going to repeat the pattern. And if you're looking at the lessons, you're going to get the lessons, and you're going to evolve and just keep dating better and better and more healthy until you
Yeah.
end up with a person that you just have this really great symbiotic relationship with.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have actually. I've been with Sarah for, it'll be 4 years coming up. And we've lived together for almost two.
How was it
And
different when you met her, when you first started dating her? Was the attraction different? Was she different?
she was very shy. So our relationship like was just friends for a long time. It was funny actually because that girl that wanted to get married right away, Sarah was my friend. So when that whole thing happened, I was like telling her about this, and she's like, "Well, what did you do?" And I'm like, "Well, that was that. That's done. That's over." I'm like, I walked away from that situation. I was like, I'm not, you know, I was like, she was just too dramatic anyway, and I was already seeing other red flags, and then that just was like, no, I gotta go. So then she had made some comment like, well, selfishly, I'm not disappointed or something like that. And I
Oh,
looked at her like, what? And I think maybe she was trying to like beat around the bush or make it sound like on a friendship level, which, because sometimes people get in a relationship and then they can't talk to their friends of the opposite sex, which is another thing I think is bullshit.
yeah, absolutely.
People that say that men and women can't be friends and have sex not be in the picture, but it's
They got
bullshit.
problems. There's something wrong with
Yeah.
those people.
I agree. And I mean, I probably agreed with that statement when I was a junkie, but I don't know, those relationships were all transactional too. So,
Yeah. But what's interesting to me is that you were friends with her first. My current husband, we weren't, I wouldn't say we started out as lovers, but it was different in that it wasn't that, crazy chemistry. I can't stop thinking about you, flooded dopamine. I'm obsessed, that kind of thing. It was like, oh, what a great guy. And we became friends like right away. We were having sex, of course, but it was more like
yeah.
a friends with benefit kind of thing. And then it evolved slowly, which like never really happened for me. And um, you're like my eighth episode, and I can't tell you how many of the people I've interviewed, when they finally have that healthy relationship, they say, "Yeah, it was totally different. We were friends first, for one thing,
Yeah.
like, and then it just evolved, and it was
Yeah.
not that crazy, like love at first sight or lust at first sight. It wasn't like that."
No, yeah, and it wasn't like that for us at all. I would have had no clue that she was attracted to me if she didn't make that little comment, and if I didn't pick up on the subtlety of it and pry a little bit into it. And then uh I was like, so really? And she's like, yeah. And
Yeah,
she was really shy. She's like hiding her face. She's like embarrassed. She's
this
like,
is
oh my God.
adorable.
And so I'm like, well, let's go out sometime. You want to do that? I'm like, would that be okay? And she's like, yeah. So we did. And yeah, I think
That's
like
so romantic. I'm sorry, I'm swooning over here. That is
it
so.
was sweet. It was sweet. And then that night, after like our first time going out, we were here at her place and her daughter. Either way, we're sitting on the love seat and we're watching a movie in her living room. And like I'm not trying to make any moves because I know she's shy. And I'm honestly, for some reason, feeling kind of scared as well. So I was just like, whatever, watching the movie. And then she just kind of like scooched her butt over into me, you know? And then I was like, like a little fingertip on the shoulder. And then I was like, eventually, like, then she like grabbed my hand and like pulled it around her. I'm surprised I remember that so well. And yeah, and
Oh,
then
I'm
we were,
not. I would remember every detail of that for the rest of my life if I were her and you.
and then we're just like, just cuddling, watching the movie. And then yeah, I remember when the movie got done, she was like, you can stay if you want or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty late. I'm pretty tired. I figured I'd sleep on the couch. And she was like, if you want, you can come lay in my bed. You know how that
Yeah.
ends up. It's kind of like back rubs, you know. We all know how back rub
It's
ends.
very erotic. I have to say, it's incredibly romantic. It's super sweet. I'm dying over here, but it's also very erotic. I mean, there's something
Dude, the
really,
tension just was like building hard. It was like that's why I was feeling scared, and I think that's why like, but she obviously like at that point knew that I reciprocated her feelings and felt safe with me, and I'm grateful for that because I've always been that way where I tend to go for more assertive women, like strong, like take charge. Like I like that. I like that. So
Mhm.
because I would be so scared. I was always such a scared little
Yeah,
fucker when it came to sexual stuff,
yeah.
until I got comfortable with the person, which was hard to achieve, obviously. But I mean, I had my moments in a few of those relationships where I was able to achieve it. But yeah, I mean, all these different weird uh, relationships, dude, so backpedaling after, so wait, it was between the girl that I told we had to stop having sex because I wanted to honor the Lord. And and then I had dated another girl before the one that wanted to get married right away. So this chick, she was cool. She was really new. And at that time I had quite a few years under my belt, and I was um yeah, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I mean, some people around here, they act like I'm a big deal, and I always look at them like, no, dude, but I was doing the podcast for a couple of years at that point, like people knew who I was around here.
You had some stature. It's an attractive quality. I mean,
So
it's
she,
our DNA. I mean,
yeah, it is really what made this chick reach out to me, like how we met was like she was like, he's good looking and he's got something good to say. And she was trying to like get away from dope and stuff. So anyway, we quickly started dating, and like things got pretty serious, and she was like the first one that I brought around my boy Wyatt and like on a regular, and she was at the play at her place a lot, and Wyatt loved her, and he loved her daughter Haley, and it was like this whole thing. So anyway, she had this tumultuous situation with like her bio dad reappeared and wanted to like connect, and she never really knew him, and he wasn't there for her, so she didn't know if she should meet him. Da 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 da. Well, anyway, she ends up, we talked about this a lot, and she was really like fucked up about it, and then she decides she's just gonna give it a shot and like go meet this dude, and then he ended up like buying her a car, like a nice fucking one. Like it was like an Impala, and it was used, but it was like a fucking, probably like a, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000 car. It was in a good shape car. As soon as she got that car, dude, shit just changed. She she completely, and it was weird too, because it was one of those I didn't know why, what was happening, but I did, like I intuited that it was something was off. And anyway, she like there was a work night. I had to get up at 3:30 in the morning. I remember she was gonna come over, and she left me hanging and waiting and waiting. She was supposed to be over like 6:30 or some shit. She didn't show up till like 9:30 or quarter to 10. And by this point, and she hadn't been answering me all day, and then she had nothing but excuses, and I got a little irritated about that. But then this other day, a couple days after that, like she wasn't responding to me or nothing, and I stopped by to check on her, and she was outside. She was twacked out with her next door neighbor, and they were fucking digging around in the car or something. But it was crazy. I just like blew up. I was just like, but it was a weird kind of blow up. So it was like I could feel it building, and it had been building since that other time. And I was like trying to be cool, but in this moment, when she was in her trunk and she was fucking giving me attitude when I said hello, and like she thought that I was trying to catch her up on some shit, which was not the case. I was just coming to see her. And I just didn't know where the attitude was coming from because I had been being cool. And but I just literally was like, fuck this, and I just stormed back to my car. That's when she started screaming all this shit that was going on in her head. And I was like, I'm not obligated to participate. If you want to fucking go back to that life, see you later. Deuces. And I just left. And I kind of felt like a dick after because I was like pretty intense way to respond. And I didn't know where the fuck that came from, but it must have been like, all the training from the recovery stuff. It was just a
yeah,
weird.
yeah. And also maybe you were a little bit triggered, because you'd had women not be there for you, suddenly kind of turn on you. I mean, it just seemed like uh you've had women be one thing and then all of a sudden become another, and it's a type of betrayal. Maybe it's not a purposeful betrayal, but it is, or an emotional abandonment, whatever. And then there's that one, and it triggers you so bad that it can either kind of set you backwards, break your heart and send you reeling and really mess you up, or it can propel you to be like you said, I don't have to participate in this, right?
I was like, after I realized that sometimes anger is a good thing,
Yeah.
Uh, like, because I talked about that in meetings a lot.
Anger is, resentment is not, but anger is. And that's another thing
Right.
in meetings that you don't hear. You get convinced that anger is a bad thing. Anger is a perfectly, if you suppress anger, you become depressed. It's a
No,
perfectly
yeah, it's
rational
healthy. It
response.
can be a good motivator, right, for
Yes.
change, all that. Man, I was
It can
like
alert you that a boundary needs to be set. It can be the thing that alerts you that, oh, this isn't working for me. I need to set a boundary.
that right there.
Yeah.
That right there is exactly what that moment was. But it really shocked me. I was like, what the fuck? I was all sorts of jazzed up too, like juiced, like when I drove away from there, like feeling real like amped up about it. And but the thing that really sucked about that situation was the way my son responded. My son is very sensitive, like his dad. I have no idea where he gets that. And he was tore up about her not being in
How
it.
old was he?
At that time, he was pretty young. He was only like 6, so he's
Oh,
13
oh,
now.
yeah.
So anyway, but after her and that whole thing, because that was very intense for me. Uh,
Yeah.
I really cared a lot about her, and so did Wyatt apparently. And then that brought out like I didn't want to be one of those guys that's gonna like keep trying to date and then and keep like you know who cares if my heart gets broken, but I don't want my son's heart to get broke every time, you know. And so I had to start becoming really like mindful of that. And honestly, at that point, I was like, I give up. And I started to realize like maybe there's something to this. You were talking about it on your last one, the suggestion, of the first year, no relationships first year. Mind you, I'm quite a ways into this journey at that point. So yeah, 3 years or something like that into my recovery was when I finally was like, I think I'm going to give that suggestion a try.
Really?
And yeah, I stayed sober, single. Yeah, I stayed sober too, but I stayed single for like over a year after that one. And that was when I did the Imago relationship therapy and the shadow work and stuff was
That's
during that
definitely
year. I'm a like since I found this life in the first place, like it didn't take long for me to realize, or experience that delayed gratification, the kind that sticks with you and those benefits that are really positive and there's no caveat, there's no come down, there's no side effects, right? It's just all good stuff that you had to go through hard to get to instead of getting the immediate result and then you got to go through the hard after, right? Like I think I just became a sponge early on and it was always my mentality and it's gratefully continued to be. And with that came a lot of ebbs and flows and changes and self-realizations and growth and backslides and slips and falls, but thankfully never into a relapse, but definitely in the emotional sense, the behavioral sense, the every other fucking sense, like I've been going on the journey, and I'm
Yeah,
just
recovery is
grateful.
the first step, right? Like getting sober is the first step, but I've had to work the steps over and over and over again on every single area of my life, and never more in any area than my intimacy issues, right? My fear of intimacy, and I was 54 when I met my current husband, and or my only husband. And I didn't realize for a couple of years that I was still in denial about my trust issues. I thought he was the screwed up one for pushing so hard, for insisting we were perfect for each other, for sticking with me when I wanted to keep him at arm's length the whole time. And I had an epiphany a couple of years in. So at that point, I'm like 56. And I realized, oh, I still have some denial. I still have trust issues. I still can be arrogant and think, like it's another layer of the onion. There's always more. But
Yep.
My recovery is the foundation, and the steps are the way that I progress in every area, whether it's in my
Yep.
career, in my friendships, my familial relationships. Like I'm always learning more about how to be a better person, a better friend, a better daughter, a better partner,
Yep.
um, a better uh, person in the world, person of service. Like it never ends.
Yeah.
But
And
I'm at a place where at least I could say I'm healthy. I'm like above the line. I'm interacting in a healthy way. When issues come up, we communicate. We work them through, right? We
yeah.
recognize our part in it. We forgive our partner's part in it, right? And it's instant. And it happens so quickly. They say never go to bed angry. I mean, I work through shit in an hour or so these days.
Same. And it's funny too because I always tell Sarah how grateful I am for her because she's patient and she's kind. She's got such a soft, like big heart. And but at the same time, like when things do, like I'm not saying we've never argued, but they never turn into knockout, drag out fights. And although I will say, kind of similar to that, like, whoa, where did this upswelling of emotion come from? We've had a couple of those moments. Sometimes it's been me, and sometimes it's been her that have had it. And it's just the instant shutdown, the whoa, 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 pump your brakes. What's going on? And maybe we had to step away, right? But we always come back and then we can have a calm, rational conversation
Yeah,
and talk it through.
yeah,
And I mean, the fact that, like, if Kaylee sees us having one of those conversations, she thinks that's a fight. And I think that's honestly such a blessing that she thinks that's a fight. Because I'm like, Kaylee, that's not a fight. We are just having a healthy exchange.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
talking it through.
yeah,
We have differing opinions on this, but we're hearing each other out.
yeah.
We're just coming to an understanding about the situation. Yeah, that's cool that she thinks that's a fight.
Yeah, it is. I mean, people get triggered, but it used to be you get triggered and you blow up. Now you get triggered and you're like, oh, whoa, what was that? Maybe an opportunity to look at something and work it
Fuck.
through, right?
Or just like, I'm not fit for cold consumption. I need time to process this moment,
Yeah,
like time out,
yeah,
because that's okay too. Because
yeah,
sometimes those emotions, man, holy shit,
yeah,
they're intense. And then I think about how great things worked when I used to have, the knockout dragouts and just let the feelings take control and drive the ship and tell me what to say. I mean, I was never a violent guy, but back in my using days, I remember having a girl attack me one time that I ended up choking her out for a couple seconds, and then that scared the living shit out of me. I threw her on the couch. I'm like, where did that come from? Like, I don't want to be that guy, and that's not who I am, and so therefore that's why you get so like freaked out by it.
yeah.
And to at least now have the gift of sobriety, wellness, with all that work comes the self-awareness where you can really say, you know what, we need to pump our brakes, or we got to come back to this conversation in a little bit, when we're calmer. um
And the
Maybe.
relationship is always better for it. You work through
Oh God.
something and then that particular thing usually goes away, or it certainly happens in smaller increments, right? Like it
Right.
might bubble up a little bit, but once you kind of work it through, it dissipates, right?
Yeah,
And the relationship's just better for it. I mean, I just
because
see,
words are funny, you know that they're irreversible, they're irrevocable, and they're irredeemable once it leaves your lips. And you know what I'm talking about. Anybody listening to this, that moment when you say some shit and you just wish you could snatch it out of midair and take it back instantly. Like, fuck.
yeah, yeah,
Once you do that, the hurt is done. The
yeah,
pain has been inflicted, and you can't change that.
It's that thing about contempt. They say they've done studies on this, and the one um, type of behavior that will almost ensure a relationship doesn't make it is when the couple starts talking to each other with contempt. If you're holding your partner in contempt on a regular basis, but even if you do it one time, it sticks with a person. When someone talks to you with contempt in their voice, I personally don't know if I ever quite get over that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I learned that from my mother. I picked it up from my mother. I know she never realized she was talking to us with contempt, but it broke my heart as a kid. And I caught
Yeah.
myself talking to my I was sober, but I still wasn't good at relationships. So 10 years sober, I was in a relationship, and I caught myself speaking to him with contempt in my voice. And as I hear it coming out of my mouth, I'm like, oh my God, I'm my mother. It was horrifying. And
Yeah.
he pointed it out, and I was like, we're going to therapy together. And we really worked it through. I never wanted to hear my mother coming out of me again. And
Right.
I don't do that anymore. But I also happen to know that that is the death knell for a relationship, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not a good thing, you know.
Yeah.
It's like it's one of those, it's very revealing, and the sad thing is that in the heat of the moment you can say some stuff like that and really, not mean it from the bottom of
Yeah.
your heart.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some level. I mean, that shit don't come from nowhere. I don't care what
Well, it's
anybody
probably,
says.
I think a lot of times it's fear-based. You're afraid someone's trying to control you, and you're trying to put them in their place or something. You're trying to exert control, usually because I'm sorry, my cat's,
It's all
I don't know
right.
if you hear her. She wants my attention. But I think it's fear-based, but most negative behaviors are fear-based.
Yeah.
But again, it's just that thing about learning to be a better person, and our relationships make us better people, right? It sounds like
Right.
yours is doing that, mine is doing that.
It's definitely good, and congratulations, by the way, on the marriage and on the book, the new book.
Oh, thanks. Thank you so much. I'm
And
excited. It's
and the
doing well.
continued success on Rock Monster. I mean, that's great. You
I'm
know,
proud of my two books, and they were a lifelong goal, and so it took me a while to get there.
the Whale Podcast. Also, we have a playlist of songs that symbolize recovery to our guests, but that's only on Spotify. That one,
Mhm.
and that's called the Whale Playlist. Same logo. So if you're a Spotify user, check that out if you want. They're a lot of them are up. Most of them are uplifting songs, but you'll get musical whiplash. It's such an eclectic, strange ass mix of music. It's all over the place. Um, yeah, we have 457 episodes, I think, currently, maybe
Nice.
458. Kristin's about to be one of the upcoming ones. The website is wayoutcast, all one word.com. So, and
And
then
it's a
the
great one.
Recovery Cafe. What's that?
Oh, I was going to say it's a great one, and it's lasted. A lot of the recovery podcasts, have a short stint. Yours has been around for
Yeah.
quite a while, and it's really, really good. You have great guests. But go ahead. Yeah,
And
the
it's
recovery.
funny because we don't pay for promotions. We don't, we've never monetized it. We don't have a Patreon. We're not trying to make money, dude. This is a service. Yeah, Recovery Cafe in Oak County is a big uh, thing that's been going on in my life for a while. Last year, I became one of the founding board members of it. We spent about a year having regular board meetings, doing online trainings, with Recovery Cafe Network, which is we're part of that network, and that network is a national model. We did probably about 20 episodes ago, maybe so it's one of the more recent episodes is with a woman named Killian No, and she is the founder of the Recovery Cafe in Seattle, the first one, and ultimately she's the CEO and founder of the Recovery Cafe Network. She's amazing. And yeah, so they have like 80 cafes around the country. And the
Oh,
beauty of it
really?
is, yeah, the beauty of it is that anybody who's interested in something like this, the network gives you all the tools and support that one could ever ask for or want to, like, you don't have to know how to make a nonprofit organization. All you have to do is like, reach out to Recovery Cafe Network and inquire about it. They'll help you do it. They'll help you do the damn thing. You know what I mean? You just got to follow. directions and take a bunch of trainings and learn the skills.
Mhm.
It's amazing what they do. It's been awesome. We had the blessing of having a woman who already started one, the first one in the state, which is Recovery Cafe Frogtown. It's over in St. Paul, Minnesota. She came together with our other co-founder, Bill LeClaire, and he's been like a guy that started a lot of like recovery meetings in the area, and he always had it on his heart. He wanted to start a nonprofit, something like this. So she said, let's do it, and she helped him start this thing. And then they asked me to be on the board.
And
I
so what
almost
can
said
you do?
no.
Like it helps if someone reaches out to you, what can you do for them?
Anything, man.
It's amazing.
If we can't, we have partners in the community that can. And if we don't have the partner that serves the public in the way that you need, then we will sit. We got laptops on site. We'll sit with you, man, and we will help you find that resource. And we're going to make a new partner out of that, a new relationship that we can work with another organization. What we are is a membership based peer recovery center. So yes, you can drop in, but people always ask, is it a drop-in center? No. Like you can pop in a few times and see if you think it's for you, but the ultimate goal is to get you to sign up as a member, and then there's only three requirements for membership. You have to have the intention of being clean that day for that 24-hour period. You have to give back to the community in some way within the cafe itself, and you have to attend one recovery circle a week. We offer on-site recovery circles. We offer physical activities, uh, so people can learn how to have fun and just like get active. We provide free lunch every day that we're open, and free coffee and water. Uh, we're looking currently for restaurants to maybe do sponsor a day. So if you're interested
Yeah.
in that and you're in the Minnesota Twin Cities area and you hear this, by all means, reach out to us. Our website is Recovery Cafe Anoka County, all one word, .org. So it's long, but it's easy to remember.
Yeah.
Recovery Cafe Anoka County .org. If you go on our website, you can meet, you can see everybody on the team. You get to see my pretty little face and a little thing in there. I think I'm like the last picture I put.
I mean,
I
I don't
did the
know.
website, so I put myself on the very bottom of that page.
I noticed that. I don't know if there's one in Austin, but I can tell you when I heard about it, I just thought there should be one of these in every city, every major city, certainly. But oh my God, how amazing would that have been had I had that resource when I got
Yeah,
sober? I mean,
yeah.
AA worked for me, my meetings worked for me, but things could have been easier in some ways. There could have been more support. There could have been the AA was the only thing available then. 28
Yeah.
years ago, it was literally the only thing available. And now
We'll
there's so many
offer,
different,
we'll have school for recovery too, which will have different people out that will teach workshops or master classes that are, based on different aspects of life, not just recovery. Maybe we'll have somebody come out and teach a class on how to manage your finances. Maybe we'll have somebody come out and teach a class on how to, build a resume and do interviewing, like soft skills. It's
how about
this,
shadow work?
that would be great,
Yeah.
I don't know any people that really specialize in that in this area. I only got turned on to it because I used to, during COVID, I was on intherooms.com, and there's a meeting called Healthy Love on Thursday nights.
Oh, nice.
But dude, honestly, it helped me in such an amazing way. Like it tapped into that part of me, that inner child,
Yeah.
and like heal. It made me at least closer to whole. I don't know if I'm whole, Kristen, but
Well, we
Maybe.
don't, we never, I don't think we ever really know because I thought I was whole 20 times in the last 28 years, right? And I
Yeah.
like to think I'm whole now. I'm a lot closer to whole. I will say that. That's all I need to
Yeah.
know. That's all I need to know, right? And I
Exactly.
just accept the lessons as they come at me. Anyway,
Amen.
thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for what
Yeah.
you're doing out in the world. You're just a beacon of service and community and it, it's just beautiful to see. And it's great to have you on the show. And I loved your stories. It's great to see someone who's like such a big part of the recovery community who can tell like a really raunchy story.
Oh
I was
God.
really hoping I would get a few more of those. I've got some. I had a sex addict was my first or second episode, but anyway, yeah. I mean, because I can tell a few raunchy stories, but
Hell yeah.
nobody's topped me except you definitely kept pace, so I like that.
And then it kept me thinking of other ones, but they're like from
All right, we'll
using
do a
days and
part two.
shit.
We'll do a
Well,
part two. Well,
but it doesn't apply though, really, to what you're talking about. Because, like, dude, I mean, we all got, yeah.
if
I
you
mean,
learn something, here's the thing. I'd like a lot. It sounds like a lot of your stories, you weren't learning anything. And so then it's just like a drunkalogue. It's the stories where
yeah,
you're learning something, where you go through some shit and you learn
right.
something. That's the really
Yeah.
cool stuff. But you got a lot of those too. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everything. And
Thank you.
yeah, maybe in 10 more episodes or 20 episodes, if I'm still doing this, I'll have you back and we can mine some more of your stories.
Hell yeah.
All right. Okay. Take care, man. Thanks a million.
Yeah. Have a blessed day and talk
You.
to you later.
Bye.